Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the DeckTales Podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life. Most of the time, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who called the open sea their workplace, but I'm open to the odd exception as well. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed an unexpected tear. So if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, DeckTales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. J Black, a musician and producer whose time at sea is filled with stories enough to fill an entire series, but we managed to keep it to just over an hour. So if you want more out of him, then just go and ask him yourself. Unfortunately, I forgot to check my equipment and recorded my audio through my laptop mic this time around. Just as well it's my guests who usually do most of the talking. Please forgive me on this occasion, as after all, I am human. Now let's anchor up and have a little listen.
There we are. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jay!
What's up?
What's up, man?
How you be?
I'll be good, man. I have not seen or heard from you probably since 2007.
A little bit later than that. You came to a gig and you came to one of my birthday parties.
Oh, fuck, shit.
In
Sorry.
London. Yeah.
I'm cursing already. I'm not even a minute in. That was, who was that gig? Where was that gig? That was in Camden.
It was in Kentish Town.
It was in Kentish Town, that's right.
Southampton Arms.
Was it your birthday?
That wasn't my birthday. My birthday was in, you came to I think it was my 51st. That was at a place called the Priory. It was my local at the time.
I see.
That was in Kilburn.
Yeah, that was it. Oh,
yeah.
God. I mean, when was that? Because if you're 51 then.
Yeah, I'm 59 now.
Oh, God. Jay, what is your secret, man?
Yeah, black don't crack.
Well, black don't crack, but Caucasians be aging.
I've not heard that before. That's good. I like that. You know what they say? They say, once you go black, you never go back. Talk to my ex-wife about that, because.
So yeah, for the benefit of obviously people listening, we met for the first time back in 2006. It was my first contract, and you were the band leader in the first band, and the band were called
Juice.
Yes, I knew it was one word. I knew it was one word, and I was like, it was Juice. I convinced myself it was Juice. Who else? Yeah. Who else was in your band? It was Keith was on the drums, Tommy was on the guitar.
Yeah, Keith left.
And then Jazz came.
Were you on the Destiny or the Emerald? Yeah. You were on the
Destiny. Jazz came in after Keith.
Jazz came in afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ellie was the singer.
That's right. Yeah, Ellie. Can't forget Ellie. Well, you were both singing. I mean, you all.
We all sang.
You all took a turn. And then was there Jane? Was there Jane on the sax as well? Was that
Jane on the sax? Yeah.
Yeah. I got everyone. Full house.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. He sang as well, actually.
Everyone sang. Everyone except Keith. Miserable bastard.
Keith didn't sing, no. But then when Jazz came, he sang.
Yes. So I mean, I should be able to remember the band. I forgot about Ellie, to be honest, but I remember her now, obviously. I remember Ellie quite vividly because she was seeing one of the dancers. So, and he lived in the cabin next door, Jay. So at times, it felt like the three of us were a throuple.
Yeah, that ship left, though, isn't it?
Then what was Paper Fin? And there's some give in it. There's some surprising give. Like you can actually see ham coming through sometimes if you press hard enough.
Yeah, well, the guy next to me was the fitness instructor, and what was his name? Narcissus. Remember him? Narcissus, and he's a fitness instructor. It's hilarious. Romanian dude.
I mean, that's a stereotype in itself, isn't it? He's a
yeah, exactly.
He's a narcissist called Narcissus.
Yeah, and our beds were both attached to the same wall, and we both had girlfriends at the time. So it was like, yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you didn't have like a code or a system where it's like, hey, take a night off. I need some sleep, or vice versa. There's no system.
No, no, neither one of us got much sleep anyway. So my girlfriend was Romanian as well. So.
Those Romanians, we love them. Chauffage?
Bine, see,
Bine, yeah. Oh, of course, bine. What do I know? What else do I know? Only the rude stuff comes to mind now.
Naruk.
Well, I remember
Naruk.
Say Your Best. Obviously.
Naruk is the one I just come on.
Yes.
There's a delay, I think. Naruk is cheers.
Yeah, I don't remember anything other than Say Your Best. Pupa my encore.
Yeah.
That means kiss my ass. And what was Pula Mare. Do you know that one?
Uh-huh.
It's like my dick. It's like fuck bollocks.
Right.
It's a curse word.
Right.
It's an expletive. We won't keep all of this in. This is just me trying to be like, hey Romanians, I made a joke at your expense, but don't worry, I did learn some of your language.
Okay.
Anyway, how are you, Jay?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. Things have been funny.
Funny?
Yeah, it's been a strange few years. Starting with COVID. That's how long it's been strange. But going backwards recently, I left London when London locked down, came back to the States to help my parents out because I was supposed to go on a river cruise.
And you're in New Jersey, that's correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's your place of birth. That's your hometown.
No, my hometown's New York.
Oh.
Don't get it twisted.
But so your family, if I remember this correctly, is your dad white?
Yeah. And he's 6'10". You met him. He came on board, didn't he?
Yeah. And your mum is?
My mom's black.
Yeah.
And she's like 5 months. Yeah.
But I do remember you had
Nobody's black somewhere,
So you went back to basically look after your folks because of what?
All right, yeah. So I went back. I came back what I thought was going to be for a few months. Yeah. 2 years later, it was. I actually got with another girl and went back to New York, and I stayed with her, and then I got another contract when everything started opening, and it was on a friendship, and it was probably the worst cruising experience I've had.
It was on a what ship?
French.
A French ship.
Yeah, very exclusive.
Oh la la.
Yeah, very, 10 grand a person.
10-day cruise was 10 grand a person.
A person, yeah. It didn't work out, and I disembarked, and they were like, well, we don't want to send you to the States. And I was like, okay. So I went back to England, didn't I? And I went to Nottingham.
Of all places.
Well, that's where my ex-wife's from.
Okay.
Half the time I lived in England, I lived in Nottingham. So I got off and went back to England. And then I got a contract in Oman in a hotel, a Ritz-Carlton. And I'd done 2 Ritz-Carltons before in China.
Because before we did this, I went on your Facebook profile and then under places worked. It's, you have to scroll.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this since the mid-90s. Well, at least my first ship I did in the mid-90s.
Yeah. Well, you're a gigging musician through and through.
Right. Yeah, I do that. I've stage managed. I've DJ'd. With stage managing, including sound and lights. I ran the shows. This was Royal Caribbean, big, huge. It wasn't. Yeah. Well, actually, the ship I did wasn't as big as some of the big. It's not like the ones now. Those didn't exist then.
They're always going up a gear. It's impossible to keep up. Someone sent me a clip of an NCL ship called Viva, and they've got a 3-story go-kart track.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, because obviously you need that, right, when you go on a cruise.
Royal Caribbean did it with an ice skating rink and a bowling alley, a few years back, and everybody got them.
You got to question the boardroom meeting when they came up with that one. Like, who's installing a bowling alley on board and thinking, yeah, that's a good idea?
Well, that's like putting a pool table on a ship.
Yeah, but they fixed that because now they've got those gyroscopic tables that auto level.
Yeah, but they didn't then. Yeah.
But with bowling, Did you have a go on that? How did that work?
No, I was never on a Royal Caribbean ship that big. I've done some others, but no, not Royal Caribbean.
But so
Uh,
how many years have you done, would you say, grand total in the cruise ship industry?
I did my first contract in 1995, I believe,
Hmm.
or maybe 1994. So whatever the math is for that.
Well, obviously you weren't exclusively on ships every year since that year. So rather than you giving me a time frame, how many ships have you done?
Oh, I had that written down somewhere. Um,
Ballpark figure.
hang on.
You got your notes to hand. Good. I love it.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, let's see. Okay, two Thompson. One of them was twice. Four Royal Caribbean, two MSC, one Fred Olsen. What else? I did a Morella, which I'll tell you about that later.
I've already lost count, Jack. I wasn't counting as I was.
Yeah. There's the Friendship, the Windstar. I've done a lot of ships.
Yeah.
Ballpark, I don't know. I have to look at it. I don't know. I don't keep those kind of numbers in my head.
More than 20?
But probably around there.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like I usually count it for contracts or companies as opposed to the actual ships.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But then you could do different ships within one company. Like you did the Emerald and you did the Destiny.
Yeah.
Which are both...
Royal Caribbean, I did the Monarch, the Sovereign, the Sovereign Norway. I don't think any of those exist anymore. But the funny thing is, the Destiny was used to be a Royal Caribbean ship.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go on there as a stage manager, as vacation cover, because I finished my first contract as a stage manager, and I was supposed to go there. But the guy that was on another ship quit, so I went on there instead of going on the Song of America. Okay. I ended up on it anyway. Yeah, and the Morella ship that I was on was a Royal Caribbean ship as well.
All paths lead to Rome. All ships lead to Royal Caribbean.
Yeah, or Carnival.
Or Carnival. Yeah, they're the big dogs. They own the most. So yeah.
Carnival's the biggest, and then Royal Caribbean.
But so you didn't do any Carnival ship?
No, actually, I got offered one, but I couldn't do it because I went to Oman.
Oh right, yeah. But so, in terms of like the percentage split between doing like hotels and cruise ships and anything other than ships grouped in with hotels, what would you say the percentage divide would be?
Oh, there's a good question.
I just came up with that.
Probably more on land because I did Japan a few times before I even thought about ships.
That's cool.
And then I did ships. So I did my first ship and then I left it for a year and then went back to my second one. And then my third and my fourth right after that. And then I got off because me and the woman I ended up marrying, who I met on my third ship, we got off. And we did the corporate thing for, I don't know how many years.
The what thing, sorry?
The corporate thing in England. So we did corporates and weddings in military bases.
Yeah, wow.
So that was a good, we were married for 10 years. First, we moved here to the States, and then we moved to England. And that's then we started to do the originals thing. And then that didn't, I actually did get her signed, but then the record company went bust, as they did in those days. So we actually moved to Nottingham. She was already doing an ABBA tribute. We put a Madonna tribute together. And when we moved to Nottingham, we started our own corporate band. I opened my studio because I had a studio as well.
Right.
I reopened my studio in Nottingham and then started doing corporates and with local guys. Mm. And we were really successful. But then in the midst of that, we started doing ferries, Brittany ferries. And then I didn't even count those.
Yeah, well, that's short and sweet, isn't it? You're not on there long enough to really.
Well, the thing is, they used to book us for the year. So we'd get on. I mean, you just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But it's reminiscent of ships because it's a ship, really. But
yeah, it's not reminiscent of a ship. It is a ship.
But I'm talking about a cruise ship,
I get what you mean. Ferry is
it's the same size with less glamour and lots of truckers, and tobacco barons. You know what I mean? But And the cabins are pretty much the same. And
The clientele on ferries, obviously, as you said, is quite different to like the class or clientels that you get on certain ships. Obviously, you've got your Royal Caribbeans, your Carnivals, your Thompsons, your French companies. You didn't like the French company. That wasn't really your jam. Was there a particular company that was like a cruise ship that was your jam that you really
I,
enjoyed working for?
I really like the Windstar. I like small ships. I've been on some really big ones, but I like small ones.
Why is that?
You just get to know people, passengers, and I mean the end crew. When I did MSC, well, the first MSC ship I did it with my ex-girlfriend, and it's funny because I was like the cruise director when we first got on, said, "So you guys do Italian songs?" And we were like, "No," and because all the passengers were all Spanish and Italian.
MSC, yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, well, why did you put us on there? I'm American, she's French.
Why did you book us?
Yeah, well, it wasn't the company, it was the agent that did it. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's the first thing you should do as an agent is know your audience. Or
yeah. But I mean, we did French songs because she's French, so that was part of our thing. But there's no need for that. The second one I did on my own, and I had a blast on that ship. Had an absolute blast on there. And I was only covering for somebody. I was only on there for like 2 months. Yeah, there was like 6 pianists on there, with different jobs. And it was 2 of us that did the piano bar. And then there was a guy that played in the lobby. And then there was another guy, I mean, in the atrium, big fancy atrium. And there's another pianist that played with a trio. And the piano player that played in there, he was amazing. This little Italian dude, he was hilarious. It was great because like I would do an hour, and then the other guy, he was actually my boss. He was like the MD of the whole ship. So I would do an hour, he would do an hour. I would do an hour, he would do an hour, and we'd alternate days. So on one day I would start early and finish early, and then the next day he would start early, and I would start an hour later and then finish later. And it was cool. It was very cool. I used to go and sit in with the other guy. And he had all these left hands, I used to come in and I used to come to the atrium, and every once in a while we do 4-handed piano.
Oh,
all these people, all the way up to deck 12 were like, because we weren't, I had an hour to kill, and sometimes we'd both have off, and we'd be in the crew bar because that's what you did. You went to the crew bar. The crew bar was massive. It was a big, huge thing. Yeah, it was really cool. Actually, really like that ship.
Hard to pull yourself away from these crew bars sometimes, especially if they're massive. They're very inviting after work.
Yeah. The first 2 Royal Caribbean ships, they were big ships, but they didn't have a crew bar. They had a crew bar, and it was a little room, but we had a whole deck. You know how the crew deck was on the Destiny?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that big. And there was a pool.
Oh, well, yeah, some ships had pool decks for the crew, but they were like tiny or they were never in use. They were just like, empty.
But the pool, the pool's always this little square thing. Yeah. Or actually, on the MSC, the 2 MSC ships I did, they were in the front deck, and they were little round things around the same size.
Yeah, they're just like little oversized jacuzzis.
Yeah, exactly. The Emerald's my favorite ship.
The Emerald was your favorite ship
that I've ever done.
So the whole 20 plus ships that you probably got, Thompson Emerald, which is a small little dinker of a ship that no longer exists.
Yeah.
The capacity of that was how many guests? Can you remember?
1,000. 1,100, I think.
So it's a little bit smaller than the Destiny.
A lot smaller than Destiny.
Oh, okay.
Because the Destiny had bigger cabins. It was a bigger ship, but that's when Royal Caribbean designed it. They wanted the cabins to be a bit bigger.
Why was the Emerald your favorite?
It was just, the itinerary I loved. 1 week it was Greece and Turkey, and the other week was Croatia and Italy. And then the last month, because it was the only seasonal ship that Thompson had, because it went back to Lewis in the winter. And I don't know where they brought it, but...
Different operator.
Well, the guy that they owned the ship. They own
Oh,
all of them.
oh, so Lewis
They own
is
the Destiny. Lewis is the Cypriot company that owned all of Thompson's ships with the exception of one of them. I think it was the Celebrity. But I did it twice. And because it was small, we all knew the crew. We all knew each other. The show team, well, the entertainment team, shall I say, was we were all really, really close. We were like a family, and the cruise director made sure it was like that. And he arranged certain things for us. He was really good. His name is Nolan Dean.
But the Emerald being your favorite ship, not just because of the itinerary, but because you had a fantastic team as well.
Yeah, yeah. We did Egypt and the Ukraine and everything, and the Black Sea.
That's an awesome collection of places to go and check off your,
Yeah,
well, to go and collect your fridge magnets from.
yeah, absolutely.
In your 30 years, give or take, obviously, how many years that is on ships, since you started, what's been the scariest moment?
Oh God, scariest moment. I've never really been scared on a ship. I'll tell you what did happen. It scared me for a second. It was on the Emerald. We had all been out, so weren't hammered, but we'd been out for the night. We'd done our job. It was like 3 a.m. I'm walking back to my cabin, 7 short, 1 long.
7 short, 1 long. To those who don't know, is what, Jay?
Oh, right. It's the general emergency signal. Get your life jacket, go to your muster station, and pray. Yeah.
The ship's alarm bells. 7 short blasts on the horn, and 1 long blast. So what was your immediate reaction to that?
Well, sobered up really quickly. But then the funny thing is I heard, because usually there's supposed to be an announcement. They'll say a crew alert, and then they'll give you some code to say, so the passengers don't know there's a fire on deck 5, aft, starboard side. And you don't do anything, you just get prepared. But when they call general emergency, that's when you have to come into action. And then they didn't say anything afterwards, and they never said anything. It was a false alarm. But nobody said anything. Oh, wait, but that's not it. I'm sorry. That's not it. I wasn't scared for my life. I was scared for my job. God, we're all getting on, and we know everybody because that ship is kind of, everybody just comes on again the next season, and everybody's like, we're getting on. And I'm walking down the corridor with this big box of equipment on my head, because that was the easiest way to carry it. Down the corridor that led to what we called Skid Row, where the crew cabins, some of the crew cabins were. But all the premium cabins are along that corridor, and nobody was on board yet. So I'm walking, I got this thing, and the box hit a sprinkler and knocked it off. So all of a sudden there's, 55 gallons of water a second, brown water, completely flooding the deck.
Brown water?
Yeah, because it was in rusty pipes.
Oh,
because
no.
The sprinkler system only gets used when there's a fire. You know what I mean? So if the water's just sitting in there, there's gonna be some oxidation. And I'm standing there, and the safety officer who I knew from the year before, he was like, just go. I did miss a ship once, but it was a ferry actually. But it wasn't really my fault because I had gone on another ship to visit a friend of mine, and while I was with her, I knew that the ship that I was on was the same, port in Hull, and we sailed like 2 hours after they did. So I went to visit her. Of course, we were in an inside cabin, and then I was like, right, okay, I gotta go, and I ran, I ran into one of the guys I knew. I was like, yep, I gotta run before I can't get off. And the guy was like, it's too late. I was like, you're kidding.
Oh, God.
They sailed early. Well, the thing is, with I don't know if they still do it now, but the thing is, you can get on another, if you're docked with another P&O ferry, you show them your ID, and they let you on. But they, they write down and that you're from a different ship. Your crew number or whatever they use on the ferries, I don't remember.
How the hell do you stay on a ship and not realize that it's leaving the port and get off in time?
I didn't get off in time.
That's what I'm saying. Like you, you were on it to visit a friend. She's got an inside cabin, so obviously you can't see that the ship is moving. But
Yeah.
you're low enough to surely be hearing like engine noises.
Well, the ferries, they make a lot of noise anyway, and I was busy, shall I say. Um,
Right.
and when they pull out of the port, they go really slowly, because they have to, because they can't just pull away. You know what I mean?
So the ship pulls out slowly, unlike yourself in that moment.
Well, exactly. And I was going to say a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to. So, I go out on deck, and I'm sailing past the ship I'm supposed to be on. I was supposed to go to between Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The port's right in the middle, and I was on my way to Belgium. I had to get off in Belgium and take the train to Rotterdam and pick the ship back up. And the funny thing is the next day I was due to sign off.
Your contract was ending that next day anyway.
So the next day anyway, so I got off. They knew it wasn't my fault because the ship sailed early. And security should have made an announcement saying, there's a crew member that's not a member of this crew. So, yeah.
We'll let you off on that one.
They did let me off on that one. Yeah.
As obviously most crew members in our position, you get time off. You go on excursions now and again. Do any stick out in your mind?
The two excursions that I've done that I've really enjoyed was the Ho Chi Minh City tunnel tours. And I was with my future ex-wife at the time, and she was my fiance at the time, and her dad and her little sister had come on. We went on because I don't really go on excursions, but you had to do this one if you wanted to see it. And so we went. It's amazing. Well, first of all, to see it, the whole Vietnam, like it started with, we watched some propaganda films, but to see it because I grew up at the end of the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? So to see it from that perspective,
I bet.
And then they showed us these booby traps. I was just like, oh my god, that's horrific. One of them was this big wooden ball about that big, with spikes about that long coming out of it. And they put it in a tree, and you trip the wire and it fall on you. And they were saying that the object wasn't to kill another soldier, it was to maim him. So the two other soldiers would have to bring him back. So that means that the platoon or whatever was down 3 guys. But then they brought us to the tunnel, to the entrance of the tunnel, and it was a whole busload of us. So we all got out, and it was a bright, nice, sunny day, and it was a big clearing, and they said, okay, find the entrance to the tunnel. It took us 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And I imagine doing that at night under fire. So we finally found it. There was this little ring on the floor, pulled out of the ground, and this guy that was a Vietnamese soldier that was with the tour, he showed us what they did. He walked up to it, dropped his gun down there, took the thing, put some leaves on it, put it over his head, and disappeared. You would not know he was there. So then, the guy looked at me, said, why don't you try it? And I was like, all right. So I did the same thing. I got to here and got stuck. Not stuck, but I couldn't go any further. But because the average Vietnamese person is smaller than your average American.
Yeah.
So then he's a soldier, so they're all, buff. And then you're like from here down, and you got guys in trees with guns, you know what I mean? But then they had another entrance, they let us go down there. The one guy showed us how they traveled in it. And this guy went, and he went down there like he was running. I just couldn't believe it.
He's on his back, like
on his back, sort of like
crawling.
Like yeah.
We've got to try and be as audibly descriptive as possible because
right, yeah, of course, right, yeah. He's on his back like a crab.
But I know what you mean. He's on his back and he's kind of scuttling backwards.
Yeah, with his hands behind him and his feet kicking. He showed us that, and they took us. They had everything down there: hospitals, meeting rooms, bars, everything. And it was 120 kilometers under the biggest American military base, right under it. I was like, no wonder we lost.
They were well prepared.
That one and the pyramids.
The pyramids is yeah. It's one of those ones though where I heard people obviously on the Destiny who'd been and done contracts with Thompson's to the pyramids.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we were there every week. Once you've seen them once, you've seen them.
Yeah.
You didn't want to have to keep going there week in, week out. So there wasn't much else to do in the
right.
boat.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, I only went twice, and that was what we did.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to book it. Like,
yeah.
First year I went. I think we went with the passengers, but it cost us a fraction of what they paid. I think they were charging like 200 and something quid, and it cost us $50.
You got a good crew discount.
Yeah. The second time I went for free, but I went because they had a crew bus that year, but we couldn't get on it. The entertainment team couldn't get on it because we make more money than the others, so that was fair enough. But the second year I went as an escort.
For the record, that's tour escort, not male.
I was getting ready to say, yeah, I got paid really well for that one.
It's a little black book in hand.
Yeah.
As a tour escort, your job is to basically chaperone the guests, make sure they all go and come back. You hold a paddle, they all follow you.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a little medic kit just in case someone gets a boo-boo.
No, we didn't have. Well, I didn't, but I didn't have a paddle either. Well, one time, we went to the pyramid area, and they said you have X amount of time to go, and we went around. I came back, my bus was gone.
Oh, you were missing things. What? How'd you?
No, they left early, but the guy realized it and came back.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't scared because there's 18,000 Thompson buses, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get on one of them, and say what happened. And we were all going to the same hotel for lunch anyway, so it wouldn't have made a difference. But it was the second time we got on, and this woman who turned out to be really nice, she was like the tour guide. It's whatever stupid o'clock in the morning. Everybody's really tired. They had to get up. We had to meet in the lounge at something like 6:30 or whatever. They'd been drinking the night before because it was right at the end of the cruise, so they were all like, that was the highlight. Yeah.
Big blowout.
This woman decided with the speakers on 10 to recite the entire history of Egypt. I was like, oh my God. Passengers started yelling at her. Would you shut up? We're trying to sleep. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was really hilarious.
That's you got to read your audience.
Yeah. If they're throwing things at you, maybe you should.
Brilliant. There has to be some embarrassing moments that stick out like a sore thumb in your memory. The ones you're happy to share.
Okay, I'll give you one. And this is, but there's a place. I don't care if anybody else knows this. Anybody that knows me from ships, especially Thompson, knows I love the nudist beaches. And lots, I'll get a motorbike and find a little cove, get the kid off, go swimming with nature. It's wonderful. Yeah. Anyway, there's this one place called Ravin in Croatia, but it was full of naturists, like mainly Germans, but they used to come up in boats. They just come naked. You know how people come in little boats and they want to get close to the ship. They'd be stark naked. And one day I used to make a joke out of it. And we played out on deck. And I said, we were even, and I always, me, I'm like, hey, I always throw a little comment. I said, there's a lot of naked people here. Everybody laughs. Ah. I was like, did anybody see anybody naked? And I usually go, yeah. And then one of them did. And it was when he said in the back of the room, yeah, we saw you. I was like, I wasn't embarrassed, but it was just like, it was funny though.
You were asking for it, Jay.
Yeah, well, I kind of was really, now I look back on it.
Yeah, you were tempting fate.
Yeah.
You want to go as incognito as you can, but then how incognito can you be when you're wearing your birthday suit?
Yeah, and being the only Black person around. I was in, Croatia, 6 months, 2 contracts. So a year in total, we were there, however many times a week we were there. And outside of one time when there was a U.S. naval ship there, I saw 2 black people.
Wow. In a
People
year.
used people used to tap their friends and point at me.
Oh yeah. No, well, in some parts of the world, that is the way it goes, isn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, it wasn't like they were saying, dirty so and so. They were just
No,
like,
no, yeah. It's
that's
like
something you don't see every day.
it's a novelty. It's like a Black Russian.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the same kind of thing. Well, not the naked thing, but the same kind of thing happened in the Ukraine. 2 times, yeah, we were in this one city. Once I was gone for a walk with the girl I was seeing, and this we were in this like ruins somewhere, and this guy comes up with a sash, and I was just, he's walking up to us. I'm like, oh, maybe we're not supposed to be here, blah blah blah. Well, turns out the best man at weddings wears a sash in Ukrainian weddings, and so he was like, oh, you want to be in the wedding picture? I was like, oh, okay. And the girl I was saying she was white, and he was like, no, not you, him. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, they weren't being horrible about it, but I had a feeling that's what the deal was. But no, it wasn't like they just wanted to take a picture with me. I'm in these people's wedding photos. The photographer is waiting for. So it's like, this is Uncle John and Mary, and that's the black dude that we just met.
Well, they just wanted to show their friends they had some diverse friends that
Oh,
attended their
well,
wedding.
it's just this novelty, and we were in the middle of this ruins, and we were the only ones there. You know what I mean?
But just for my own clarification, it was a group shot. It wasn't just like you and the couple.
This photographer was arranging people.
Yeah,
like,
that would have been awkward though if it was just him and her, and then like, yeah, get involved, Jay.
Yeah. It was funny, but it was the best man that initiated it.
Hey, well, best man asks, you can't really say no.
Right. So in Croatia again, I'm at it's an island near Dubrovnik. You take a boat there. It takes like half an hour to get there, and it's a nudist beach, but it's not like beach. It's like big flat rocks. Then down a meter or two, there's another big flat rock, and and it's all like steps. And then to get in the water, you either have to jump or they have ladders. So I'm looking for my spot and found a spot. It was my second favorite spot because somebody else was in my favorite. So I was like, okay, I'll chill here. But then the person that was in the spot that I wanted originally moved. So I went and got there. I got my book out, and I just happened to look down at the rock below me, and there's this couple, 50 odd, and they were going at it.
Yeah.
They weren't naked, totally stark naked. So I'm reading my book and, hey,
Keeping a low profile.
Yeah. So I was just like, whatever. And actually, I wanted that spot even more than the one I was in, but they were there, so I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But then they stopped, and then they're getting up and getting ready, getting their stuff ready to go. So I'm like, all right, great. And the guy gets up and he turns around. It's the captain of the Emeralds and his wife, obviously. I was just like, and I know he saw me because, for one, all the rocks were white. And I was the only black person for miles. And I used to lay in the sun all the time. So I was super blackety black. And
no one else can say that.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew the next drill, the captain, the staff captain, and the safety officer come around and inspect all the stations. And, the captain came around. I just looked at him. I wanted to say, I've seen you naked, and better yet, I've seen your wife naked. He kind of just looked at me like, mm-hmm.
It was unspoken.
Yeah. That was hilarious.
Did you have any nicknames at sea?
Nothing. Mr. Black didn't really have a well.
And your dad's name. Your dad's surname is Black.
No, that's my stage name.
Jay Black is your stage name?
Yeah. My real name is Jason Moorer, but nobody gets that right. So
Jason Moore.
Maurrer. See, that's why I changed it.
Has it always been your stage name, Jay Black?
No, before that it was Jay Diamond.
Jay Diamond.
But I changed that when I got to England because everybody was laughing at me. When I first moved to England, people were like, "Who? You got to be kidding! You sound like you work in Blackpool or something."
Well, well, that's not a compliment. I don't know. It depends on how you take it. If you work in Blackpool and you're saying that to somebody like coming from the South, it's like you're a bit tacky.
Yeah, or
bit
typical,
cabaret.
okay. Yeah, exactly.
You never put on a stage act or like a character to go with the stage name. You would just always yourself, as I remember.
Sometimes I'll turn on my American Black thing. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really do a thing. If it comes up, there's nothing regular that I do. If it comes up in the humor of the moment, I might do something. But
there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of extra stank.
I do all the time. Well, when it's appropriate, obviously.
You never had any emergency situations?
The last ship I was on, I had to administer first aid. Somebody cut their foot. They stepped on the glass, and there was nobody else around. Well, there was other people around, but they weren't paying attention. So I went up to the bar and got a first aid kit, and then, hey, I paid for this STCW for a reason. You know what I mean?
Well, so that was basically as a result of you kind of going, "It's okay. I did a survival course on CCTV. I've got this."
Yeah, exactly.
You did your
light a fire. I can put it out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm a trained elementary first aider and firefighter.
Yeah, exactly.
I did a day course. Well, there are obviously in the time you've been on ships, there must have been a couple passenger or crew deaths.
There's one, the one that I know of, and this guy was the first ship I ever did. And it didn't actually happen on the ship. It was in Barbados, and there's a thing called the Jolly Roger, which it's a mock-up of the Jolly Roger, but it's a booze cruise. People get on there and get hammered and get off, and then come back on the ship. Like, hey. So this guy, I wasn't with them.
Passenger?
Yeah. He decided that he was going to jump off and swim back to the ship. He didn't drown. He had a heart attack.
Wow.
And of course, they had to bring him back on because they had to bring the body back.
So literally only one death in all these years.
That I know of.
Yeah.
Injuries, yes. There's one poor guy. Actually, it was on the last ship I was on as well. I think he'd been on for 2 days and broke his leg. So he spent the rest of his cruise in a wheelchair.
How did he break his leg?
I think he fell down the stairs on the ship.
What, in bad weather? Or just...
No, bad weather.
Drinking.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, again, when people go on board, it's like, hey, here's my passport and here's my brains. Now, where's the bar?
Yeah, exactly.
All inclusive.
Well, I had an injury, and I wasn't on board. As I said, I used to always get a bike and a little twist and go, and go find a little lonely beach somewhere. It was some little port where there's nothing but a bunch of tavernas. But anyway, I got my little bike, and there's this little cove I found, and I was on my way there. Came to an intersection, and I wasn't going fast. I went to slow down at the intersection, and my front wheel locked. So I just fell over. I was fine. Well, I thought I was fine. And I had a bit of road rash here. I went to the beach, and that hurt, in the water, seawater, or whatever. But that helps it. But then the next day, I woke up, and I felt like, how you sleep wrong and your neck is funny? I was like, oh. And then the next day, whenever I lifted my arm up, my shoulder went to my ear. Well, it turns out I tore a ligament in my shoulder. 2 ligaments in my shoulder. It took 6 weeks to find out, and I was playing on it 6 weeks because I could only go to the doctor off the ship in one port, our home port, Corfu. At one point, they thought I was dislocated, and they brought me from the clinic to the general hospital, and it was hilarious. They gave me anesthetic and said, "Okay, wait in the hallway." I'm like, because they're gonna pop it in place. That's what they thought.
Yeah.
They took the X-ray, They realized it wasn't. But meanwhile, I'm sitting there,
Drooling.
and my girlfriend came, and so I'm sat there, and I was stoned off my head on whatever they gave me. And they're like, sorry, we're not going to do it now because it's not dislocated. You need an MRI. So had that, and finally, I had to get off the ship for a week, make my way to the hospital. I had to take a ferry from Corfu to the mainland, go to the hospital, have this operation done. And I was in the hospital for like 4 days, and I came back with this picture somewhere on Facebook. I'm sure you can find it. With me in a mail bag, big blue thing under my arm, and the band had to play without me. And on there, we were only a 4-piece.
And you were like the band leader.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I played when I got back. When I got back on board, like the next day, I was playing, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna be able to play bass and sing. But
Yeah.
problem is, every once in a while, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say you wouldn't be doing like your piano flourishes up and down.
yeah, I was a little bit limited.
Yeah. Obviously, you're not done with ships. You're going back on one soon, right?
Possibly, yeah. I was actually talking to somebody today.
Oh, okay. So the adventure for you isn't over, but if you were to stop today, what would you say that you've learned from ships that you wouldn't have learned if you just stayed on land all these years?
I remember seeing that question. I thought, well, one, the amount of words in different languages that I know.
Yeah.
The STCW stuff, certain things that people just don't know.
That SCTW is
the safety training.
That's the code.
Yeah. I forgot what it means though. That was the one thing that screwed me when I took the course. When I took it online, I cheated and wrote everything down. But I'm not good with acronyms.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, what does this mean? Why don't you just say what it is? You know what I mean?
Did you ever see any environmental practices being broken?
I didn't see one, but I was on a ship when it happened.
Mm.
I didn't actually see it. It was Royal Caribbean, and we used to have to wear, even if you didn't have a uniform, we had to wear a little button that said "Save the Waves." It was this Royal Caribbean thing, We don't throw anything overboard and blah 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 blah. They got caught dumping because the ship always they can dump certain things at certain distances away, but yeah, they got caught dumping when they were dumping something where they weren't supposed to. And they got, some helicopter spotted it, and they got fined like $7 million or something. And the day we found out about it, we just had a big lecture from the captain.
Oh wow!
Because it was a sackable offense. If someone catches you throwing, so even a cigarette butt.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Any forbidden romances you care to tell?
Done some strange places, but with crew,
Care to spill on that?
Once there was the Locker.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Where the entertainment team keep
with all the wigs and the bingo cards and all that.
The game show podiums.
Yeah, all that stuff.
You went in there.
Yeah. Yeah. But where it was, like where the game shows were in this lounge that was surrounded by the shops. And then there's a door right next to the shops. And that was the Locker. And we went in there on formal night.
On formal night. Wow. Classy man, Jay.
Yeah. I've got one. Here's a request, and it was on the Emerald again.
Yeah.
And I had gone into one of the public toilets to go to the bathroom. And, there's a guy standing next to me. And, he recognized me, and he was just like, you know what? Could you talk to Thompson about doing something about the weather? And he was dead serious. And I'm like, dude, I just said, okay, yeah, I'll have a word because they'll talk to God and we'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Consider it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if you go on, did you ever do any world cruises? Like
no,
3.5. You don't want to do a world cruise. Why not?
No, because they're 3.5. They're the same people for 3 months. And from what I've heard, the average age is deceased. 2 weeks is enough. 3 months? No. A lot of people go on world cruises to die. If you got a terminal illness and you got the money, what would you rather be in a hospice or on a cruise somewhere seeing the world? I mean, if you know, if there's somebody out there listening that wants to try it, do it. It's worth it. If you hate it, just don't do it again.
Yeah, fair.
You know, I mean, worst comes to worst, you can always give up and just quit.
But do you find it addictive?
It's not for everybody, but yes, absolutely. Not so much anymore. I mean, if you really ask me now, I love ships, but I kind of prefer hotels because there's less hoops to jump through. Because yeah, I gone on and all of a sudden there's cabin inspections and drills and everything else, and I hadn't done that for a while. And I was just like, someone was always waking me up in the morning. I don't do mornings. You know what I mean? Even if someone offers me a contract, I don't count it until I have the boarding pass in my hand. Never mind the contract. I want the boarding pass. And during COVID, I had the boarding pass. It was for a river cruise. That's interesting as well, actually. River cruises. I mean, I've only done one, so it's not a whole bunch to talk about, really. But it's different. Like when I got there, you know, there wasn't a transfer. I had to make my way to the ship, and it wasn't far. I picked it up in Amsterdam, but I just walked on and walked up to reception and said, "I'm the new piano player." And they're like, "Oh, all right." You know, it wasn't like I had to wait, and you know, that showed them my contract and everything else.
Chief Purser's office.
Yeah, but again, I was the entertainment team. It was me, and that was it. Me and the cruise director.
You didn't get any upsets with COVID? We did. You had the contract, and then it was that.
I had the contract, and it just got there. It was before I left. It was literally just before I left. Like I said, I had the boarding pass, and then the whole thing got canceled, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, you were lucky not to have been there when you were like on the ship, because then it would have been a really good.
I don't know what they did with river cruises, actually. I'm not sure how they handled that because you can't quarantine the thing on the river. It's small, you know what I mean? It's not like you can't come, you know, you have to stay away from the country if you're in the country.
So are you working on an album right now with like original material?
Wouldn't really call it an album. It's just some original material, not necessarily for me, more to sell to other artists or to television, movies, video games, corporate presentations, things of that nature. My cousin's a filmmaker. I've just done some music for him.
Cool. As well as being a kick-ass performer, you're doing all the composition stuff as well. You certainly got the chops for it, Jay.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yeah, without blowing smoke up your ass, you're one of the more gifted, I would say, performers for most of the bands I worked with. And I'm not I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast. I do mean that genuinely. You had so much energy for a lot of the audiences, as you were said, like who were deceased already sometimes. You brought them you brought them back to life anyway. Maybe that's why you haven't seen any deaths at sea. You keep them alive.
Right, there you go.
Are you making any plans to be back over here at any point, or not really?
I've been kicking that around because one of the things I wanted to kind of do is settle back here because I was, you know, when I first came back, I was like, oh, I won't be here long, and then and then I went back to England, and then I ended up back here again. And I was like, you know, I'm going back and forth and running around and doing, you know, but like I don't have a driver's license because I never had a chance to get one. What's the point anyway? I've got one now, but you know, I had a driver's. You know, I've been driving since I was 18. Actually.
Well, that's interesting. So because you're always on ships.
Yeah, ships or hotels. That's why I don't have a car. It's like, what am I going to do with the car? Why am I going to pay insurance?
Yeah, just a drain on funds.
Yeah, exactly. So,
are you just doing music exclusively? Obviously, you do a bit of producing now and again, and arrangements and compositions. But outside of music, is there anything else that you do?
Not really, no.
To pay the bills, you just music.
Well, at the moment, yeah. I mean, I was doing some driving when I was in New York for a bit. And the other thing that I do in between which kind of screwed me when COVID happened, is I work on the bar. I'm a really good barman. But of course, when COVID hit, that got shut down as well.
Do you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's like my next few contracts, put it this way, I thought about coming back to England, but I've been also looking at going back to China because I absolutely love China. And, I was there for practically 3 years. My favorite Chinese word is actually Cantonese, and it's "Hiya," and you know what it means? Fucking hell. Yeah, and I say it all the time now. It's like I brought it home with me. It's hilarious.
Do you know I think it's Mandarin. There was a comedian on one of the carnival ships I did, and his wife was Chinese. And basically her parents came over to the boat, and he would hear them back in the back seat of the car when he was driving, kind of talking, and they would say "chega nega, chega nega." And,
yeah. You know what? Like, nigga. That means That's what that means. Yeah.
Chega nega, chega nega. It's their word for and
Yeah.
How long have you been of interest? How long have you been in New Jersey for?
I've been here since the beginning of January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I lived in this area before. Before I lived in England, I lived down here. There you go. Here's something. That's how I got my first ship ever. I was at this place and I actually lived upstairs and I was bartending and I would play there. And I was at this jam session, which was terrible. They had 3 jam sessions. One was an Anything Goes, which was awful. And then they had a blues one, which was good, and a jazz one, which I didn't even play in because the piano player was just amazing. And I'm not a jazz player. I can play jazz, but this guy would play stuff. And I was like, yeah. So I'm playing, I'm playing this thing, and this guy came up to me. He said, "Yeah, you're really good." He says, "I know somebody looking for a keyboard player." I was like, "All right." And he said, "Can you travel?" And I said, "Where?" And he said, "I don't know, Florida, the Caribbean." I was like, "You hold the pen, I'll move the paper." You know what I mean? So he gave me his number, and he says, "If anybody ever asks you, don't tell them where you met me."
What was that bar's reputation? Quite a bad one.
No, it was a really cool bar, but it was out of the way, and he was having an affair.
Okay.
And brought the woman there because it was out of the way.
Right.
So he didn't want anybody to find out about it. So he put me in touch with the couple, and it was the couple that ran this band, and they hired me. And I haven't looked back since.
Oh, of course.
Well, I did leave it, and then I wanted to go back.
Are there any ships that you want to go on? Like you're like, oh, that looks good.
No, I don't like the big ships.
No,
I don't like them. I mean, if I get a job on one, I'll do it, but I prefer the small ones. They're more intimate. You get to meet people and meet them. On the Windstar, in Port Manning?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, on the Windstar, because it's not big. And a lot of times, we only had to do it, the entertainment team only had to do it every now and then. Yeah. Well, on there, because it's so small, you're on Port Manning every other day.
What?
Yeah, every other day. So it's easy to switch, because you can find the staff captain to ask him. You just have to say, "Can I switch with so and so?" And then you do it.
Yeah.
So I was on in Port Manning that day, but the tour manager, she asked me if I wanted to escort a tour, and I said, and it was in Santorini, and I was like, "Okay." But I'm on Port Manning. She said, "No, Shurex, they've got a lot of clout."
Yeah.
So she got me off Port Manning. And we went on this catamaran. It was me and these 2 families. And it was, except for having to get up stupid early, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We went on this catamaran. We just went around. We went to some hot springs and went around. And the grandmother was flirting with me, like, outrageously. I was just, oh my God. And there was only 3 of them on the catamaran. It was the skipper, the assistant, and the skipper's wife. And she cooked the whole time. And then then right at the end of the cruise, we stopped and we ate this home-cooked Greek meal.
Oh.
is amazing. The guy was a member of the House of Representatives for Wisconsin, and he made me an honorary member. Gave me a big coin and everything. So I'm an honorary member of the House of Representatives for Wisconsin.
Have you abused that power yet?
I would like to with the state of affairs here. I won't go into that. You know what I mean? But
That's another podcast, I think.
it's another podcast. Yeah, absolutely. But and he gave me a really big tip at the end of the cruise as well.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
I'll tell you what, though, the one pain in the ass about Santorini is when there's too many ships there.
Oh yeah. They had to put a cap in place for the amount of cruise ships coming in.
Well, especially it's the last, 2 ships went down there within like 4 years or something.
Yeah, they sank. What did they do? They hit the rocks.
The volcanic rocks. They'll just cut right through the hole.
There's a big ring, isn't there, in the water of like where?
Yeah, there's more than one of them as well. Actually, I didn't realize that because the last time I was there, we went somewhere else, and I was like, "Oh, I've not been here." It looked the same, but they didn't have the donkeys. That was the difference. No, they didn't have the cable car.
The donkeys were still working.
I hated that.
Man. You go on TripAdvisor, look up the donkeys review. There's some awful reviews.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I used to walk up.
Up the zigzag stairs where the donkeys
are. Yeah, where the donkeys are. I would walk up.
Yeah.
And there's this woman, this big American woman, and the donkey just stopped. It was like, okay. And she's like, dang, kicking it. I was like, I walked past her. I just looked at her like, you want to carry me up these stairs? You know how many other people this donkey's carried up the stairs? Give the animal a rest. Yeah. I don't like the fact that you're on it in the first place. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And I knew she wasn't on my ship, so I didn't care.
Was she going up the stairs?
Yes.
Yeah. That's torture. How much do you reckon she weighed?
Oh, I don't know. 300 pounds. Yeah, she was a big lady.
There's got to be, I think there's some petition, or if it's not already happened, like to put an end to that stuff.
Ban that. Yeah, it's horrible. You know what? The one thing I enjoyed it, but I understand that a lot of people hated it. One thing they don't do anymore is passenger drills. Post-COVID, they don't do them anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have an app on their phone, or you have to, like on Morella, what they did was you go around to all, you find out where your muster station is and your lifeboat and all that. You go there, you get all the beeps, and then you go and wait online, and then you have to watch a safety film, and then they give you your cabin key.
Oh, wow.
You have to do all that shit first. But then you don't have to stand in your lifeboat station the next day.
That's a trade-off, isn't it?
Because the thing is, this way, you don't have a whole bunch of people at one place at one time.
Yeah, and obviously, when we did on the Destiny, it was like the morning of the first day of the cruise.
That's when it always was. That's when it has to be.
But so all ships now is like they just do it through an app, or was that just Morella?
No, it's all ships now.
Wow,
they stopped it because of COVID.
No, I didn't know that.
I think Royal Caribbean was the first. It was either Royal Caribbean or Carnival. It was one of the big companies that did it first. And and there's an app that you download on your phone, and if you don't have a phone, they give you a device that you can do it on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you have to return it, but it's either a little tablet or a little.
Yeah.
Looks like a phone, and you have to go around. And when they first reopened, you had to take your temperature regularly.
Yeah.
So you had to go to the little temperature station, and then tap the thing, beep on it, and then they saw it was you, and then they check your temperature.
I think that you probably definitely dodged the bullet.
Oh yeah, I mean they didn't have all that tech. The first, because the cruising first started when it first really started is when I went back.
Yeah,
but it's an old ship. They didn't have all that. They do buffets again. I didn't think they'd ever start that again.
That's like part of the tradition, though, isn't it? Like,
well, I didn't. I never looked at it because people do some nasty shit about it. It's like, why did you pick that up with your fingers and put it back?
Yeah. Would you ever want to work on the Icon of the Seas, Royal Caribbean's new big one?
Nope. I would, but I'd like to tour it, but I wouldn't necessarily want to work on it. I saw a video on YouTube. I could not believe it. It was Royal Caribbean, but I don't know what ship it was.
Yeah.
They had a piano in one of the elevators. And seriously, one of the elevators at the atrium, and the guy's in there playing, and he plays piano for you when you come in the elevator. If they would have told me that, I'd have been like, okay, consider that my resignation.
But elevator
To
musician.
do a fucking 40-minute set in an elevator. And first of all, imagine that, you get in an elevator, it's like, fuck off. And then, what if somebody with a wheelchair comes and they're not going to fit? Because it was a piano. It wasn't like a keyboard. It was a piano. And how heavy is that?
Yeah. When I was working for Carnival, they had us do all kinds of shit, man. They had us do one thing that was like, there was 2 activities that we had to host for Carnival that involved being in an elevator. One was the elevator trivia. So people would come in, be like, hey, welcome to the elevator trivia. Basically ask them a question, and they got it right between their stop, whatever. Then they get a little prize, a little medal or something.
In the elevator.
In the elevator.
Literally.
Yeah. And then the other one was the elevator disco. So they'd come in and you'd just be there with a boombox. Like, hey, welcome to the elevator disco. They'd get in, they'd see us, and they'd be like, oh, no, this is already my stuff. And they'd turn around and get out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No, that's just.
Yeah. Every ship's different. I just want to say thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Cool beans.
I wish you all the best with everything you're doing, and
thank you very much.
But hopefully our paths cross again one more day.
Other than that, you can come and visit me in China.
Oh yes. Thanks again, Jay. It was great to see you.
All right, dude. Later on.
Later on, dude. Have a good day. Peace, brother.
All right. Bye.
So there you have it, that wraps it up for this episode of DeckTales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to subscribe, rate and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to navigate the podcasting waters and continue bringing you these fascinating stories. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your captain, Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on DeckTales. Bon voyage!